guys, so today we're doing a coolant flush on the Lexus. Come here. Coolant's brown like this. I didn't flush it, I changed it. And I noticed it was brown and needed coolant because of that road trip last night. And I figured I'd flush it out. I have a full bottle of coolant right there. So I'm going to show you guys how to start. What you want to do is you want to find your drain plug for the radiator. Mine's right here on a Lexus. It's usually right by the exhaust manifold down below. And once you find it and break it loose, I've already done this before because I changed the radiator. I changed the coolant out of the radiator, not the engine. And it's always great to do this before summer. You should do it twice a year, depending on how much you drive. But I do mine once a year usually. My Corolla I never did it. I did it once in my Corolla. Then you get the drain pan. Come under the car, make sure it's right under where it should be draining out, and you should have a hole in the plastic like my car. So when you loosen the drain plug for the radiator, it'll just drip out that hole into the drain pan perfectly fine. And I noticed I don't have good pressure in here, so draining right into it with that drain. And then afterwards you're going to take your plug it back up. After what we're doing now is we're actually going to we're going to flush the radiator out and fill it up with water, and then we're going to flush the engine out. And you can remove the thermostat and replace it also, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to replace the thermostat in a little bit, not right now. This was just a spur of the moment video because I noticed how bad the coolant was looking. So, and you always want to do it when the engine's cold. Just film the engine while that's draining. I'm gonna go grab the hose. My hose doesn't like shutting off, so I'm gonna have to fucking basically do that. And when water's going to flush out the radiator, it's going to drain into the drain pan. I see some water coming out. If you can film that over there, down there. Yep, you see that spilling. When that water starts to turn clear, you're going to take your hose off like this. And put the drain plug back on once the drain's completely out again. And we're going to do the engine next, so that'll end this clip right here. Get the next clip when we're doing the engine. If you look in the bucket, it's brown, but in my drain pan it's green. That means it's like half bad, half good. Half the coolant's bad, half of it's good, I guess 50% live, because I didn't flush the engine out last time. All I did was drain the radiator out. So what we're doing now is I'm going to grab a screwdriver and loosen up your upper radiator hose, and you're gonna leave your drain. The way I'm doing it, I'm leaving the drain bolt for the radiator out because that's how we're gonna flush out the engine. Then basically after you drain it out, I'll show you guys how to do that right now. You wait until it's clear again, then you're gonna fill the engine back up with water, and the radiator's empty now, so it should be fine. What you're gonna do now is you're gonna grab the hose again. Like this, and instead of putting it in the radiator this time, what you're going to do is you're going to grab your hose just like this, wrap a paper towel around the hose. I don't know if you guys can see this. Wrap a paper towel around it so it's sort of like a suction cup. Even if it gets wet, that's cool. Just so it fits perfectly fine into the hose like that, and you start spraying. And my hose is spraying automatically. You definitely don't want to get that much water on the radiator like I did. Basically what you're going to do is you're going to wait for clear water to start draining out of the radiator. Nothing yet, just minor water dripping out. It should take at least like a minute or two. It's draining out heavier and heavier now. I see all the green coolant, brown coolant coming out. And well, I'm actually doing a full flush, so I'm going to take the overflow out and drain that out. I'm not doing that until the end, until I drive this car around for a couple minutes with water in it to flush everything out, heat it up, flush it out. They have flush kits in the AutoZone store, like AutoZone Advanced Auto. Those are just a waste of money. A lot easier to do this unless you have like fucking oil in it from a head gasket problem or whatever. But definitely something you want to do. You don't want the ports getting clogged and blowing a head gasket, overheating in the summer, shit like that. So I'm going to keep doing this until it starts draining clear, and film next clip when I do the next step. Alright guys, so what you want to do is you want to put your drain plug back onto the radiator. When you do that, you take the hose, fill up the engine with water, tighten the hose back down, and then you fill up the radiator with water. Now it doesn't have to be filled up all the way, because you're only driving a couple minutes. Like, you don't even have to drive the car, but I told my brother to kink the hose so it wouldn't spray. He got water all over the air intake, so I'm probably going to have to wait at least a few hours before I start the car so the engine doesn't hydrolock. But a lot of people say hydrolock's a myth. It's not. People are idiots. But putting the radiator cap back on, and I'm going to start this in a little bit. And drive it around for like 3 to 5 miles, and minimum 10 minutes of idling before you drive. Make sure the engine gets all the water in, doesn't overheat, and you're not stranded, because you might need to add more water. Like I said, you're supposed to bleed the radiator and engine before you go driving, but you know, I'm driving around my block, so I'm not going to be worried about it overheating. If it overheats, I'll be just right down the road. So, on my car keys. So I'm going to start this up and show you guys. Just film the engine. Start this up real quick. Let it run for 10 minutes. Make sure it's not overheating, then I'm going to take it for a spin. Alright, so clearly the air intake didn't get as much water as I thought. Didn't hydrolock. But you're going to basically keep an eye on that temperature gauge until it warms up. And then 5 minutes after it warms up, if it hasn't overheated, then go ahead, take it for a drive. What you're doing is you're making the water run around the system, get out all the old extra coolant that the hose couldn't flush. So yeah, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to drive around the block. I'll come back and show you guys the next step. Alright guys, I'm about to clean driveway off. I got a little back spray coolant. But if you guys see steam coming from your engine, don't worry. Most likely it's just water that you spill. If you see drips like that, don't worry. Just water that you spill. Not major to worry about. It's only been running like 2 minutes right now. The car takes about 10 minutes to warm up. See, I'm going to go clean driveway off while keeping an eye on it. So, and definitely drive it around the block if you can. Drive it a couple miles at least, flush out all the coolant ports, shit like that. Coolant ports through the throttle body and shit. I'm going to clean the driveway off now just in case there was any coolant spilled. But then we're going to take this car for a drive, get some coffee. I want to make note, if your car overheats, don't be scared. Most likely because you didn't bleed the system, and honestly there's no point in bleeding the system. If it overheats, just fucking let it cool down, work your way back home, you'll be straight. Or let it run with the radiator cap off to bleed it out. So what you're going to do now is you're going to do the same process, drain the radiator out, take the top hose off and flush the system. You guys already know how to do that. And then after that I'm going to remove the coolant overflow. I'm going to scrub the shit out of that, drain it out. So that's flushed out too. And I'll film that, because I didn't show how to do that, and then we're going to fill up the coolant. Alright, so the water's draining out of the radiator right now. Here's the drain plug. Another thing I want to mention is let the car cool down completely before you put that hose to the block and drain out the coolant, because you don't want cold water hitting a 190-degree block. All that will do is crack it. So I'm going to go inside and chill for a little bit, shower maybe, let that cool down for like 2 hours, and then I'm going to flush it out with the water until it's completely emptied. Drop the lower hose, make sure all the water's completely out. And if you don't have coolant and you're buying coolant for this project, don't get 50-50, get concentrate, because you're going to double that You're going to double that gallon like there. That's pre-diluted, so I only have that much coolant right there. If you get concentrate, you pour the whole jug into the car, and then you fill up the whole jug again with water, and you can fill that whole jug in the car, so you get double for the money with concentrate compared to pre-diluted shit. So, like I said, I'm going to let this cool down. I'm going to take the overflow out while it's cooling down, and about an hour or two from now, when the car cools down, I'll flush it out with some new water. Alright, my car, it's just that easy to get out. There's a little clip right there. You can pry down and pull it up. I'm going to drain this into that bucket right there, and I'm going to scrub it down with some Brillo and get this shit looking clean. What I did was I took a Brillo pad, scrubbed the outside with some soap water. On the inside, I can't really reach in there like I could on my Mazda. I put in some degreaser, soap water, filled it up a little bit, and letting the outside just sit there and soak while the car's cooling down, so it gets cleaned out real good. I didn't fill it up all the way, but I'm going to do that right now, so it's completely filled, and it'll get every speck of shit out of there, hopefully. If not, oh well, I'm going to have to put it back in the car like that. Over at the float tank is fine. There's no need to buy a new one just because it looks a little bad, but for its age and compared to all the other cars on the road, this one looks pretty fucking decent, honestly. So I'm going to keep filling this up, and I'm going to let it sit for a couple before I decide to flush out the engine. Alright guys, I'm going to show you how dirty the coolant was, even though I flushed it. I rinsed out the engine, filled it up with water, and I drove around, and all this extra brown shit came out, so I might have to fill up the engine again and do it. I don't know yet, but look how dirty that is. That was what was flushed out by driving around, because just rinsing the engine out doesn't get to all the ports. You need to actually run the engine to do that, so pretty dirty. I took the hose off. I'm going to fill it up right now, and then I'll film myself putting the coolant overflow back on and filling it up, and we'll be set. Alright guys, so I found a better way to fill this up. Look at all that brown shit coming out. A lot of brown stuff's coming out. I'm going to lower the level of the hose just a little bit so it's not popping out the radiator like that. Yeah. When you're doing this, you should check all the other coolant hoses too. Make sure they're not bad. And you should also change the thermostat. I'm going to do that. But right now, I'm cleaning out the engine again. I'm not going to start it up again. I should, because a lot of brown crap's coming out. Haven't flushed the radiator yet. I'm going to do that in a minute. But I'm just going to let this sit like this for a little while. Make sure I get all the dirty ass coolant. That was the second time flushing it after I ran it through the engine. So I'm just going to let it sit like this, because it's basically just water running through the engine right now. Then while I'm doing that, I'm going to rinse this off. Afterwards, put that back in the car. I'm not even going to fill that up with coolant. I'm filling the radiator up first with coolant and turn the engine on and bleed the system out. But summer's coming up, and summertime is the best time to do engine flushes, coolant flush, oil change. I'm doing transmission fluid flush. I already did the power steering. Brake fluid flush is on its way. Real easy to fucking do that, I tell you that. The way I got it done, so I don't have to bleed the brakes. Transmission fluid flush coming up. I already did the flush. I'm just going to do the drain it out. Do the gasket and filter. Recommend you doing that. If you're doing a flush, definitely do the gasket and filter. RockAuto.com, I'll sell one for $6. Go to any AutoZone, pay $20 plus another $20 for the synthetic trans fluid. Always use synthetic too, I recommend. But while this is draining out for the next like 20 minutes, I'm going to basically chill out and come out here, make sure all that brown shit's out the car. No coolant right now, so I don't care if it overflows the drain pan. And basically wrapped up right now. So next clip, I'll be putting everything back together. I'll show you guys that. Putting that back on, and we'll be filling it up with some fucking coolant, yo. So it's been like 20 minutes. Clear water's coming out now. It's not foggy no more. So I'm gonna flush the radiator out, and that should be good. You know, I noticed definitely some more foggy coolant around the ports and the mini tubes that aren't getting cleared out right now. But that's okay, because that's only a little amount. As long as it's not like last time where I flushed half the engine and the other half is new coolant, the other half is dirty. There's definitely some like chunks of like built up sludgy shit. Got that out, so I'm happy about that now. I'm gonna flush out the radiator, clean that off, pop it back in, and I'll show you guys how to put it back together and fill it up and bleed it. Easy. Most cars have bleeder valves for the engine, but I'm gonna do it through the radiator. It's a lot quicker that way. And you notice my car has a cap right above the thermostat where you can also bleed it out. I'm gonna use that too and show you guys how to use that also. But most cars don't have that cap, so I'm gonna show you how to do it from the radiator. Loosening this up now. I'm going to flush out the radiator for a good while, maybe another 20 minutes, not sure. And while that's being flushed out, I will be doing the overflow tank. My bad if I sound out of it. Still tired from last night. Up till like 5 in the morning. Got that on there. Turn the wheel on real quick. Going a little bit too quick. Doesn't need to be that. No, it doesn't need to be sprayed that much. As long as it's flushing the radiator. Good flow. It's coming out right there. It's a little bit left over from the engine. Going to after radiator, so I'm gonna loosen up lower hose for radiator. So anything left over on the bottom of the engine can come out too. That's doing that. I am going to finish cleaning this up. Alright, so that didn't get out all the dirt like I thought. It got a good amount out, so that's dope. So I want to scrub this a little bit more before I put it back on the car, so I'm going to end this clip here. Loosening up the lower radiator hose is exactly the same as the top. Should be on the opposite side, usually they are, but in this car, nope. Right below. So, clean this up real quick. I'm going to put a garbage bag down so I don't get soaked. I'm going to loosen up that hose, finish scrubbing this off, and film next clip when I'm ready to hook everything back up together, right? Alright guys, what I did now is I cleaned off the overflow. Didn't take the lower radiator hose off because it's not a twist clamp like that. It's bits to get to, so it's not dripping anymore, but I'm going to sit here for an hour, let it air dry out best as it can. And I'm going to put coolant in it and screw the radiator cap back on. So letting that air dry too. I rinse it out real good. You want to make sure no degreaser gets in the engine. So clean as fuck. The greaser didn't get it out right away. I had to spray with the hose to get all the gunk out. Now that that's all out, should definitely help prevent the coolant from turning again. And basically put mine back in one clip there. Make sure it's lined up. Down there it is. So put the cap back on. Slide that down. I fucked with that the other day when I was leveling these up. Clean up a little bit because I'm not going to need the water anymore. Bucket, nothing. Just going to need to use my hands to put everything back together and fill up the coolant. So this is a pretty easy job. All you really need is a screwdriver and a bottle of coolant and a hose, and you're set. Everything people usually have at their houses. Only thing you need to buy is coolant. Easy as fuck. don't fall in for the scams. Don't fall for the scams that they use. Saying motor flushes, coolant flush kits, shit like that work. They don't do anything more than what I just showed you in this video. So, and I honestly like this way better because it's not going to leave over any of that motor flush shit that breaks down coolant and prevents it from doing its job, basically. Because if you have any left over in the engine, it's basically going to break down the coolant, and it's not going to let the coolant do its job properly, which is not good for your engine. I don't recommend using any oil flushes or any coolant flushes on your car unless you're actually going to take the motor apart, drain the oil pump, drain the water pump, shit like that. And I recommend doing this twice a year, especially if your car is as old as mine. And I don't know if the water pump's new. I don't think it is. Time belts don't know. And you don't want the water pump getting gunked up and shit. So it's definitely a must on cars. Like I said, I did a coolant change in this when I had to drain the radiator when I first got it in January. But this is a true coolant flush. On my last car, I had to start it up and turn it off a couple times. Flushed out the motor like 3 times, so water drove around twice with different water in there. And then I drained it out and flushed it for 20 minutes like I just did. I only had to do it once on this car because it was coming out clear pretty soon after I did that. But that just shows when you drain it and flush it out the first time how much you miss by not driving the car around. Because when I flushed it for 10 minutes, I filled it up with water and drove it and came back, and I drained it out again, flushed it out. You saw how much brown crap came out that car. That's why you always drive it around, because the engine's going to suck in the water to certain ports that the hose isn't going to reach. And it helps flush it out a little bit better. I got my boy just started hanging out with again. He has a Celica. He said he's going to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to teach him a lot of stuff about cars. He wants to learn everything about a Celica. Thankfully, he has a Toyota, because I know a lot about Toyotas. I know them from top to bottom. His car is pretty basic, more basic than my car. Mechanically wise, I mean. His car definitely has more room for mods, shit like that. But mechanically, it's real easy to work on. I don't know if you guys can see, it's still dripping down there. So once that drip stops in like a couple hours, and maybe an hour, because I want it to be sunny out when I finish this video up, I'm going to bolt everything back up, make it nice and purty, and fucking fill it up with some new coolant. Fucking right, doggy. Since I did that road trip last night, I woke up hella late, 12:30, 1 o'clock, and it's about to get dark out, so still haven't finished it up yet. I've just been chilling. That's why I hate waking up late. I'm gonna finish this right now. And this didn't cost me any money because I had the coolant for a month and a half. I was planning to do a coolant flush first warm day I had, but now it's like I always do it in April, towards the end of April, because right before summer it's a perfect time to do it. And they do it right before winter too. So let's go fill it up with coolant, hook everything back together, fill it up with coolant. I have 2 ports to fill it up from. I'm going to fill up the radiator, and then I'm going to fill up there. I'll show you guys the same process on how to do that. Don't forget your drain plug. I kept mine in my pocket so I didn't lose it. Put that back on down there. If I can fucking find it. There we go. First thing you're going to do is fill up the radiator, so when you start the car up and it sucks up the coolant, the car's not running dry. I have a funnel, so this should be fun. And some of this is missing already. My car doesn't take that much, so fill up the radiator until it gets to the top. I'm gonna do that right now because it's hard to do with one hand. I'll get back to you. What up? Driving to AutoZone right now. I'm getting that coolant. I'm getting peak non-diluted. This way I could double in the amount I'm paying for. Like if I'm paying 10 for pre-diluted, that's fucked up, because if I get concentrate, I get double the amount. So fuck it, I'm getting concentrate. I'm finna fucking dilute that shit myself, you feel me? But for real though, I'm gonna get some peak 5-year long life fucking coolant. Shit I just drained out. Half of it was old, half of it was peak long life. Shit's pretty good. If you're wondering why I'm filming downward, I don't want anyone knowing the fucking street I live off of. I think that's pretty fucking basic shit right there. But I'm gonna go pick it up and I'll film next clip when I get back to the crib. Hopefully this bitch don't overheat, because I'm not running with full coolant right now. Alright, we're literally a couple of 100 yards from AutoZone. Had to roll on here because it keeps going from hot, cold, hot, cold. It's fucking annoying because I'm not, dude, there we go again, dude, like, fuck. I'm not fucking walking there either, so. Gonna have to fucking probably park this bitch, because I'm not letting it get to that red, because I'm not getting a fucking head gasket. I'm not replacing one right now, I mean. There's the AutoZone. We rolled down here real quick, so it overheated bad. Keeps going up, down, up, down. I just want to get there so I can fucking put the coolant in and show you guys how to get this shit done, bruh. So if I don't film this at the end of the video on how to fill up coolant. Alright guys, so it's the next day out here. Went to AutoZone last night. From there, it was just a horrible night. Popped the hood up. I went to go turn the cap off, and I left it like that, and that's not off. Left it like that, so some of the coolant would drain onto a paper towel I had right there. Next thing you know, the fucking cap untwists, shoots up, and coolant goes spraying everywhere. I had to clean that up. I had to get water remover from my fuel tank and put that in there, because I got a couple drops in the air filter. Filled it up. I didn't get to bleed it, so I'm going to bleed it now. Made it home, turned the car off. I didn't want it running because I got water on the air filter. I want that to dry out. But I didn't get to bleed. I didn't get to fill it up all the way either. And I got concentrate this time. This is some of the best coolant out there, so if you're going to get coolant, get this brand. I'm actually glad that happened last night. Well, now I am, because my engine didn't hydro lock, but I'm glad that happened last night, because I didn't like that AutoZone coolant that was in there. And you could go straight 50-50. If you don't want to add water, you don't have to. It just helps that coolant the engine. But especially if you live in like -40-degree winters, shit like that, you really don't want to do anything more than like 20% water. But this will be a whole bottle in here, because like half of the other bottle drained out when I when the cap came off, flying off. It's fucked up too. That means I need a new cap if it was able to spin off on its own. What you want to do is you want to do that, so it's filled up to the top. Then when you start the car up, I don't have a cameraman today, you start the car up, it's going to instantly suck down, maybe, because it's getting sucked into the engine. And you want to try and do this when it's cold, because you want cold coolant going onto a hot block. That's how you crack shit. Unfortunately, I had to do that last night. Yeah, I had to do that last night because I had no choice. I'm not allowed to use anyone in my house's car. So when you see that suck down, you add more coolant. I'm almost down. I'm gonna have to dilute it with some water. But when you did the flush, there's already water in the look. I don't know if you guys can see the swirls and separation. That's the water we left. That's the leftover water that was in the engine from us flushing it. So it's already going to be pre-diluted. I don't know exactly what percentage because there's some leftover water in the block. But I'm only going to add like 30% water, and I think that'll even it out to 50% because there was some water left over in the block, like I said. But you definitely want to add some water. It's going to help with cooling down the engine and keeping it running cool. See that? Like you just saw an air bubble come out. That's good. That means the system's being bled. I'm only doing it from the radiator right now for you guys because most of you guys aren't going to have that. That's easier to bleed the engine because it's literally right on top of the thermostat and air will be coming out of the engine. If I can't end up bleeding it from there, I'm going to have to do it from here. Honestly, that's dry as fuck, so I'm going to add some coolant into there too. I want this bled properly. It'll take way too long to do it out of the radiator. And I want to add coolant in here before that gets too hot. But if you see your car's running hot and you didn't dilute the coolant yet, add some water. Because your car's going to run hot if you don't. But I'm going to go fill this up now. And after the radiator doesn't dip down anymore, that means your car should be bled out and you should have no problems. Alright, so I'm putting the cap on the radiator because I have that cap off. There's no need for this one to be off also. I'm going to just bleed it from there. It's the same process of bleeding it from there as it is on the radiator. If you don't have a second cap like that, you just fill it from the radiator and just do the same process I'm doing. I didn't fill it up with water yet. I just added a water bottle. And keep in mind, it's not warmed up yet, so there shouldn't be too much coolant over there. When it warms up and there's no coolant there, that means you should definitely add more. It's easier to bleed it from there because that's like directly over the thermostat on the engine. But while this is warming up, I'm gonna go fill this up with water. I added almost a quart of water so far, so I'm only going to add a little bit more. And I don't give a fuck. I'm not using tap. I'm using fucking purified water. Only the best in the Lexus. But I'm going to fill this up now. Once I get it bled out, which is basically simple as shit, once the coolant stops sinking down into the engine staying full, that means it's full, it's bled, because there's no more air in the system for it to go down, no more bubbles to come out. And it's bled out. And take it for a test drive. If it's overheating and running hot, add some water if you add a coolant. That should fix the problem. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'm doing all the fluids before summer comes. I already did the trans flush. I want to get that filter on there though before yeah, see, now that's bled. You can see all the bubbles coming out. But yeah, like I said, I want to get the trans filter changed, which means I have to change the trans fluid again. See all the bubbles coming out? That's great. Don't fill up the overflow either because that's going to fill up with all the extra coolant you put in the radiator. You don't want it overflowing all over the engine. But if you look at the brake fluid, see how black that is? That has to be bled out. I use a baster, turkey baster for that. Simple process. Show you guys how to do that. Then I'm going to do I'm going to drain. I think my pan only holds like 3 quarts of trans fluid, so drain 3 quarts of the new fluid I put in, throw it out because I'm not going to reuse it. Put the filter on, drop the pan, put the filter on, add 3-4 quarts, whatever came out. And thankfully my oil drain pan shows how many quarts drained out, so that's dope. But it's either tint, trans filter, or brake fluid. Brake fluid could wait, honestly, because I want to do that when I get the brakes, and I'm getting the brakes in a month. So it's either tint or trans fluid. I don't know which one I'm going to do yet, so expect one of those videos coming out. I really want the tint done, but I really want all the fluids done soon. I want them done around the same time, so I could replace them around the same time. Trans fluid's not getting changed for at least another year because I flushed it out. Either a year or you're supposed to do it every 30,000, but I do mine at half the amount of time you're supposed to, like half intervals. So if it says 30, I'm doing it at 15. Brake fluid, brake fluid works, so it's not really going to cause too much corrosion, so I'll change it when it turns black like it is right now. So I'm not going to do that every year like I'm doing with the trans fluid. I do the coolant twice a year, definitely do that, especially on an older engine, because the ports for the coolant are really easy to clog up. That's why I do it twice a year, once before winter. And I dilute it differently in the winter. I'll show you guys how to do that than the summer, because in the winter it can freeze easier. So you want to do like a 70-30% mix, 70 coolant, 30% water, depending on where you live. So yeah, taking care of the car best way I can. Gotta love being a mechanic, because most people forget to change their coolant, flush it. Most people forget to flush their coolant, they forget their power steering, and most people never flush their brake fluid, which is fucking ridiculous, I think. If you like your car, if you're trusting that car to get you from point A to point B, point A from California, point A to New Jersey, whatever, you definitely want to take care of it and do the fluids. Fluids is the easiest way to take care of a car. And replacing shit before it absolutely needs to be done. But hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay tuned for the next one. Give it a thumbs up. I hope I helped some of you guys out. Really didn't want to have to drive this to AutoZone with no coolant yesterday. I mean, minimal coolant. But my parents have brand new cars and they don't want me driving them, so fuck it, you know? Fuck just chancing it, right? If you guys enjoyed the video, hit the subscribe button. Stay tuned for more. And if you can see, the water is right there, which is perfect, which means it's about filled up. So it's warmed up. I'm gonna put the cap on, and you're set, guys. Remember to comment, rate, subscribe. Peace.